Hi everyone, I'm Dale Smith, aka Journo Dale, and we're here to talk about Canadian politics. I figured this week we would talk about NSICOP, or the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians. Now, this has been in the news a lot lately because of the issue around those documents related to the National Microbiology Lab. The government, as a kind of compromise, was willing to send those documents to NSICOP in an unredacted form so that MPs and senators on that committee could have a look at them and see if there's anything that was particularly of interest that the opposition has been alleging. The opposition and the Conservatives in particular decided that they were going to not use NSICOP as the vehicle by which to examine these documents, wanted those documents to go to an unsecured parliamentary committee and have the law clerk do the redactions there, and also in the process of this decided, or declared rather, that they were not going to participate in NSICOP so long as this situation was going on. And so with all of this in mind, I figured I would take a minute to just kind of explain what NSICOP is and what the issues around it are right now. And so this committee is it's not a real parliamentary committee. It is an executive committee, which means that it's really housed within Privy Council office, and it doesn't have parliamentary privilege. But it's kind of a compromise in a way of getting a joint committee for MPs and senators to be security cleared and to be able to examine top secret documents, the operations of our national security and intelligence agencies, do kind of overall reviews, be able to look at this kind of classified information and provide reports to Parliament based on that, and provides a high-level oversight function, which we really didn't have in Canada up until a few years ago when NSICOP was created. They also created the National Security and Intelligence Review Agency, I believe it was called at the time, as well. So that's an outside body which also provides oversight for these agencies. But NSICOP is specifically for parliamentarians, and that's an important, at least, step. Now, when it was created, it was given a 5-year review period, at which time they could kind of review what it's been done, how well it's worked, and then kind of determine the next steps. Now, the UK had previously done a system like this, and then transitioned that into an actual parliamentary committee at the end of that period. And that was something that could have been a possibility here. And still perhaps could be in the future. But the way that it's been politicized over this issue, I think we should just kind of break that down a little bit. What Aaron O'Toole and others have been asserting is that somehow, because NSICOP is not a parliamentary committee, that the Prime Minister is able to exert too much influence over its reports, because their reports go to PCO first and then get redacted before they are tabled in the House of Commons and the Senate. And that is obviously for national security reasons. But there haven't been any complaints by the members about those redactions. And we would have seen complaints if that was actually the case. I mean, they wouldn't have to say what was in it, but they could at least say, we believe these redactions are unfair, and we could have seen resignations in protest. It's, that kind of thing. That's never happened. And if you've read through any of the reports that NSICOP has put out, they are actually critical of government. It's not that it's letting the government off the hook or anything like that. So I think, and also the opinion of national security experts in this country is that it's really not a committee that's controlled by the Prime Minister. And they have been doing relatively good work with, one of their issues. Certain professors have had, one of their reports, certain professors have had issues with, but overall, it's been a pretty good system so far. And that's why this politicization over it is a real problem. We have an issue in Canada, both in terms of this kind of almost fetish for secrecy in government, but also distrust from the national security side and those agencies when it comes to parliamentarians and whether they think they can responsibly handle these documents. And also, if you think back to our conversation with Professor Seidemann last week, his research has found that MPs didn't want to have this kind of security clearance in the past because then it would limit their ability to basically go to question period and say very loud things because they would be bound by secrecy if they had this kind of clearance. So in the past, this has never really been that kind of an issue. And now we're kind of reaching a stage where it's become one. And so I think this is something we should kind of reflect on, particularly if we go to an election in the next few months and have an opportunity to hold MPs and governments to account. That we have seen this current government create some new systems of oversight where they didn't exist before, and that is presumably a good thing. At the same time, we've seen the opposition, or the official opposition, try and politicize this because they're trying to score particular points on this Winnipeg lab issue, which none of the evidence that we've seen points to any kind of an actual national security breach or incident. It all seems to be policy, like intellectual property policy, and the fact that one of the scientists was found to have patented things in China, which would have been against the policy of her employer and the government of Canada. And so those seem to be issues that would have led more to the firing than anything else. But because there's a China element, the Conservatives are very much trying to spin this into a threat. And that's where a lot of this is coming from. So I think we need to just kind of keep all of this in mind as we look at what's going on in the next few weeks. The House has risen for the summer, so it's unlikely that this will boil over anytime soon. But I think it's important for us to know what this system is, why it's important, and why politicizing it probably is doing more harm than good overall, especially to our ability to have parliamentary oversight or oversight by parliamentarians, one possibly leading to the other, and where this kind of goes in the future, whether we do transition it to a parliamentary committee in the future, or if this, because of the way this has been politicized, that it all kind of blows up and we basically are set back in our ability to provide this kind of oversight. So lots to think about. And that's everything for this week. Join us again next week for some more Canadian politics. I'm Dale Smith. That's at journo_Dale on Twitter. And don't forget to like the video, share, subscribe, and support us on Patreon. Thanks, everyone.